In the shadows of the Indonesian coastline, far from the flashing bulbs of the international press and the prying eyes of rival engineers, something shifted. It wasn't just a technical update or a minor aerodynamic adjustment. It was the sound, a deep guttural roar that shouldn't have been there. For decades, Yamaha's identity was tied to the scream of the inline-4 engine. But at the Mandalika International Circuit, during a testing session so private that access to the pits was restricted like a military installation, that identity was systematically dismantled. The air was thick with the scent of salt and high-octane fuel, but the real tension was inside the Pramac Yamaha garage. Rumors had been circulating for months that the Japanese giant was working on a secret weapon, a V4 power unit designed to reclaim the throne from the European manufacturers. But no one expected to see it in this state of readiness. As the garage doors creaked open and the first prototype rolled onto the tarmac, the atmosphere didn't just feel different, it felt heavy. This was the birth of a project that would either save Yamaha's legacy or confirm its decline. And according to the whispers of those few who stood on the pit wall, what happened next was nothing short of a shock to the system. Mandalika is a circuit that demands balance. The heat is punishing, the sea breeze is unpredictable, and the asphalt is notorious for chewing through tires if a bike's electronics aren't perfect. It is the ultimate proving ground, which is exactly why Yamaha chose it for their most classified operation to date. There were no official statements, no lap times released to the media, and a complete blackout on visual leaks. Yet the silence outside the track was a stark contrast to the explosion of activity within. The session began as a standard race simulation, but it quickly evolved into something far more intense. Three riders, Toprak Razgatlıoğlu, Fabio Quartararo, and Alex Rins, were tasked with putting the new V4 through its paces. From the very first run, the telemetry screens in the garage lit up with numbers that left the technical staff in a state of visible confusion. Some reports suggested that the braking data was so extreme, so far beyond the parameters of the previous engine, that technicians were forced to recalibrate their sensors, fearing a system error. But it wasn't an error. It was a revelation. The Yamaha V4 wasn't just a new engine, it was a new philosophy. Toprak Razgatlıoğlu is a name that brings a specific kind of fear to the paddock. His riding style is an anomaly, aggressive, physics-defying, and centered around a front-end feel that most riders find terrifying. When he climbed aboard the V4 prototype, many wondered if the new engine configuration would stifle his natural instincts. The answer came at the first heavy braking zone. Toprak didn't just ride the bike, he attacked it. With the V4's redesigned weight distribution, he was able to take the machine into corners at angles that felt suicidal. His ability to maintain stability while the rear wheel was barely skimming the asphalt left several veteran engineers speechless. It was as if the bike had been custom-built for his stoppie style, allowing him to decelerate with a ferocity that the old inline-4 could never match. Inside the paddock, the talk was focused on one thing: Toprak had found a way to make the V4 dance. The data showed he wasn't just fast, he was consistently finding time in sectors where the Yamaha had historically struggled. But while Toprak was the hammer, someone else was providing the scalpel. If Toprak represented the explosive potential of the V4, Fabio Quartararo represented its refinement. The 2021 world champion has spent the last 2 years vocalizing his frustration with Yamaha's lack of top speed and acceleration. For Fabio, this test wasn't just about data, it was about his future. He entered the track with a calculated, almost eerie calmness. Unlike the wild slides of Toprak, Fabio was a ghost on the circuit. He maximized the V4's traction, finding a flow through the middle and final sections of Mandalika that made the bike look like it was on rails. The French champion focused on corner exit speed, a major question mark for the V4 project. The results were staggering. In long-run simulations, Fabio's lap times were nearly identical, a level of consistency that suggested the V4 was not just a qualifying special but a legitimate race-winning machine. The Yamaha was finally reacting to his inputs with the precision he had been begging for. The danger in Fabio's performance lay in its effortlessness. He wasn't fighting the bike anymore, he was collaborating with it. While the spotlight was naturally on the two champions, Alex Rins became the surprise element that shifted the entire narrative of the test. Most expected Rins to play the role of the technical observer, gathering data and offering feedback on the bike's transition from the old package. Instead, Rins became an aggressor. In several direct duels on track, Rins was seen shadowing both Toprak and Fabio, particularly in the fast, sweeping sections of the Indonesian track. His acceleration out of the long corners reportedly left Pramac engineers stunned. The V4 appeared to have a stability that Rins could exploit to carry massive momentum, keeping the bike planted even as the tires began to degrade under the intense heat. This was the third pillar of Yamaha's success. The bike was flexible. It didn't require one specific riding style to be fast. Rins' data proved that the V4 was a universal threat, capable of adapting to the smooth, the aggressive, and the technical alike. As the afternoon sun beat down on the circuit, the nature of the test took a dramatic turn. What was supposed to be a series of isolated simulations turned into an unofficial, unplanned duel. Without warning, Toprak and Fabio found themselves on the same stretch of tarmac, and the competitive ego of two world-class riders took over. They weren't just testing parts anymore, they were testing each other. They began to alternate laps, reading each other's lines, pushing the V4 prototype to its absolute mechanical limits. The pace quickened to near-qualifying levels. According to inside sources, Lynn Jarvis, the architect of Yamaha's racing strategy, was seen standing on the pit wall, his eyes fixed on the bikes as they screamed past. He wasn't looking at the lap times, he was looking at the body language of the machines. They were stable, they were fast, and most importantly, they looked like winners. The intensity of this unofficial race forced the V4 to operate under battle conditions, proving that the cooling systems and electronics could handle the heat of a real MotoGP dogfight. But this success brought a new kind of tension to the garage. The mood in the Pramac Yamaha garage was described as a volatile mixture of awe and deep-seated anxiety. While the engineers were thrilled with the performance, the management realized they now had a secret that was too big to keep. If this level of performance were to be leaked to the rival, European trio of Ducati, KTM, and Aprilia, it would trigger a development war that could disrupt the entire 2026-2027 cycle. The Pramac bosses reportedly did not expect the V4 to make this much progress in a single day of testing. They had arrived at Mandalika expecting a technical evaluation of a work in progress. They left realizing that the MotoGP power map was about to be redrawn. The realization that Yamaha had closed the gap, and perhaps even bypassed certain rivals in specific sectors, sent a wave of nervous energy through the staff. They were sitting on a goldmine, and the pressure to protect that information was immense. Every phone was checked, every data log encrypted. They knew that once the world saw what they saw at Mandalika, the sport would never be the same. As the sun set over the Mandalika paddock, the garage doors were finally lowered, and the V4 prototypes were crated back into the shadows. The test was over, but the impact was only just beginning to ripple through the industry. Yamaha had achieved what many thought was impossible. They had built a bike that combined the legendary agility of their past with the raw, brutal power of a V4 future. Mandalika was the proving ground where the impossible numbers became reality. The project had exceeded every internal simulation, proving that the bike was ready for the next level of development. For the first time in years, there was a sense of genuine optimism within the Yamaha camp, not the forced optimism of a marketing campaign, but the quiet, dangerous confidence of a team that knows they have an advantage. The V4 project isn't just a technical upgrade, it's a statement of intent. Yamaha is coming back for their crown, and based on the secret data from Indonesia, they aren't just coming to compete, they are coming to dominate. But as the team departed the circuit, one question remained. How long can they keep the monster in the box? Because the rumors are already spreading, and the rest of the MotoGP world is starting to realize that the hierarchy they spent years building is about to be shattered.